Oi, oi, hello and welcome to another GG.CO.UK video. This time I am going to be ranking all of the favourites from the grade races at the Cheltenham Festival, telling you whether I think they'll win, lose, place, or whether even they're the worst favourite at the 2025 festival. We're just outside 60 days. It's 60 days and a few hours until the start of the Cheltenham Festival. It is getting so close now. We've had a couple of weeks where the weather's scuppered some half decent fixtures, to be fair. Of course, done trends videos in the past. The Classic Chase one was pretty much a pointless video last Sunday, unfortunately, with the meeting being abandoned, especially so early. But we've looked like we're at the end of that cold snap now. Good racing this weekend across a few days. Willie Mullins is sending some horses over. Gordon Elliott could be sending Jerry Colomb over to Windsor too. Then we've got Trials Day, Dublin Racing Festival, and then there's some bits and pieces after that too. So look, this really is the time where racing's going to ramp up, and then there'll be a small little period where horses will be having a break until the Cheltenham Festival. So look, real good time to take stock. We've had some big action going on this weekend. So without further ado, I'm going to share up a tier list on the screen. We're going to run through each of the favourites for the graded races as it stands at this moment in time. And I will be telling you not where I think they'll be going. Maybe some of them, actually, to be fair, because they could get switched about, couldn't they? But the main thing in here is I'll be telling you whether I think that they're a good favourite, bad favourite, in between, all those sorts of things. So look, let's crack on. I've put the countdown up there for Cheltenham because it's so nice to see, isn't it? 60 days. A lot can happen in 60 days, but who knows? Right, let's just crack on. We've got them in sort of chronological order. I say sort of, we've got them in chronological order. Salvatore Mundi. Now, he is a big one to talk about because obviously he just won the Grade 2 Royal Bond this weekend. Bit of a talking horse on Twitter. I think that those that haven't backed him think that he can't win and he's a terrible price. And look, they've been 4-1 at the time of recording. That probably is maybe tight enough, but he'd done a lot of his shortening before then. I put him up in a column when he was still 12-1, I believe. But people have been getting 20, 25s through the summer. Look, it's his first run in nearly 250 days, I think it was. He had that debut back in France behind Sergino, which is a good effort, but just because he's behind Sergino doesn't mean he's as good as him. He run in a Triumph and he's finished 6th. And I know a lot of people talk about, well, he's running a Triumph. Valette Thompson did that, didn't come back and managed to win a Supreme after. But Willie Mullins has done this in the past, hasn't he? Classical Dream and Valtour both raced as juveniles, admittedly over in France, and then came and won a Supreme. Look, I would say, as it stands at the moment, I'm sticking him in the wins column. Now, I think it's a pretty weak division for novices this season, which does mean that there is the potential fly in the ointment. The horse could be unleashed in the next coming weeks in a maiden hurdle that could go to the top of the shop. Honest about it, we look at the Supreme as a specific race, and Willie Mullins farms the race. If you think maybe Gordon Elliott's had a few chances in the past, but LeBake, his big price, refused to race type horse, was the one that had shown his card earlier. You wouldn't think that Gordon's held on to anything. Henry de Bromhead's obviously got some horses, but again, I think we've seen those ones out, so you can make a fairly balanced view on what's happened. But for Salvatore Mundi to be so keen to win like he did in that race, I remember when Valtour won the Royal Bond, the Moscow Flyer himself before going and winning at what would have been the Dublin Racing Festival. He was workmanlike, I would say. He was like a 4s on poke. I think he won by half length. I think it was difficult in those conditions for Salvatore Mundi to be superstar, crazy impressive. I think he deserves to be head of the market. I don't think Romeo Kudo getting beat by that Tombs Venator is good enough form to be winning a Supreme. So look, this will be one for the ages until we see what happens in the Supreme. But I'd imagine they were keen to let him settle when they hit a tearaway horse. Didn't even ride from Paul Townend, because that would have been his 4th spin, right? 5 hurdle runs, you could get yourself into a handicap. If they had any reason to get him beat, or they wanted to do anything other than try and go and win a Grade 1 with him, they could have easily, when he was that keen early on, they could have hidden him in that race, couldn't they? And then that would have been run number 4. Who knows what his mark would have been? But they've done it in the past with like a State Man or even Galloping de Champs end up being like a handicap horse, even Samoa back a little bit further. So look, I think he deserves to be where he is. Look, this will be one that I could talk about for way too long, but I think Salvatore Mundi wins the Supreme, deserves to be favourite as far as I'm concerned. So Gino, we've got Dublin Racing Festival coming up, and Madgeborough is going to be laying his claim down. Now, look, everyone will talk about 5-year-olds not winning an Arkle. We've got the top 2 in the betting, Sergino and Madgeborough, as 5-year-olds. Look, Dublin Racing Festival will be interesting. I liked Madgeborough's debut. He didn't jump the most fluent. I didn't think he was like an out-and-out 2-miler. then there was a couple of, well, there was one big jump that looked like an absolute aeroplane, and he quickened away nicely because the engine's there. But look, so Gino to do what he did, I know he was getting the £6 from Ballyburn on a chasing debut. He's worked all over Constitution, whether that horse was fine or not. Look, it's not going to be saying anything outlandish, but I don't see any value in trying to take him on. So look, boring, but looks like it's going to be back-to-back favourites going in for the Cheltenham Festival, if I am correct. Now, look, moving on to the Mares' Hurdle. Short for the race. Lossy Mouth's price is in and around the like similar mould, but I guess it depends where they line up. Like Lossy Mouth probably could be champion hurdle bound. Now, Gordon said at the start of the season that she could be a champion hurdle horse, long legs, and then of course she toppled State Man again or after, and then she toppled him again over Christmas in that Matheson's hurdle that's now changed to the December hurdle, I believe. I think she'd have a chance in a champion hurdle. I'm not going to lie. Now, obviously, our Cheltenham run before was bad, and it's painful to talk about because we know how good she is now, and she was running for a lot of money for a lot of people. But we're talking about this in the perspective that she's going to go to the Mares' Hurdle. I would think if Lossy Mouth goes up against her, Lossy Mouth will give her most to think about and could do her over 2.5, because I think that's Lossy Mouth's best trip. I think Bright Day's Head looks that she could just flop because she doesn't really like Cheltenham, but like she does look like a worldie. Like I said, I think she'd have a chance at champion hurdle. So if I'm saying that and then she goes to a Mares, you'd have to think she's in there. But look, I'll put her there with the caveat that I'd be terrified of Lossy Mouth going up against her in the Mares' Hurdle, but I think they've been campaigning Lossy Mouth for a champion hurdle, and I mean Bright Day's Head might end up with an absolute freebie in there. So devil's advocate, let's say that Lossy Mouth does go up against her. I don't know whether Lossy Mouth would ever be a big enough price to want to bet, and I think Brighter Days Ahead you just sort of trust. But Lossy Mouth would fear me most if she went up in there. But I do think Brighter Days Ahead's got to be there or thereabouts. So it's getting boring so far, right? We're only through day one, but this is how it goes through the week. We all know this. Tuesday's a good day for punters, or it can be if the favourites go in. As the week goes on, it gets more competitive, it gets harder. The prices of the favourites will start getting bigger. So we'll move our way through. Constitution Hill. Now look, if she goes into the champion hurdle, I don't think Constitution will get beat by her, but he's going to struggle to give her £7 as much as he gave it to Lossy Mouth. But his comeback run was very good. And I know that numbers and wise, he didn't particularly do too much. But the thing you've got to remember is he ran in that gallop at Newbury, was worked all over by Sergino by the looks of it. Obviously, there was an issue with him after, and it was only a small period of time between then and when he raced in the Christmas hurdle for him to have an issue that get cleared up and then come back. And he was overcoming pretty serious problem with him last season. Look, Christmas hurdle, champion hurdle was the route when he won it first time. Christmas hurdle, champion hurdle would have been the route last year, but obviously didn't make it. Christmas hurdle, champion hurdle is going to be it. There's going to be plenty to work on with him. I'm team Constitution Hill, and I kind of hope it's a good clash, because we had the year when Lorena, Apples Jade, and Bouvet went against each other, and Aspar Delan, the 5-year-old, went and dotted up at 25-1. The more competition that goes in against Constitution Hill, obviously the more likely he would probably be to get beat. But the more competition that goes in against him, I wonder if he starts getting a bit of a price. If Brighter Days Ahead did go up against Constitution Hill and you could get odds against on Constitution Hill, I think I'd struggle to find a person that wouldn't want to bet him. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I'm team Constitution Hill. Let's just have a favourites down the Tuesday, and fingers crossed we move on to Wednesday with a similar vibe, I guess, because we want to be making money, don't we? Now, look, those of you that watched our weekend watch, this is kind of like a half Cheltenham video. We talked about our naps, our lays, and our each way plays for Cheltenham at this particular stage. And all of us said that the New Lion was the lay of the meeting. Now, look, I don't want to be harsh and put him as the worst favourite of the festival in here, as well as saying that he was going to get beat, because I said in that video as well, he's the type of horse that I think will place. He'll be probably like a champ, find 1-2 good. He'll be a horse that runs close. I think he's got ability, but I don't think he warrants being as short as he is in the market. So look, there's every reason to expect that he'll run well there. He places or possibly loses in there. I can't say he's the worst favourite for the festival, because I think he deserves to be at the front of the market. He's just awfully short. When you look at Salvatore Mundi, that's about 4-1 point for a Supreme, and then you look at the New Lion beating Wendigo in a grade 2, well, the shallow hurdle, that's like we've seen historically, it's had some good horses in there, but they haven't always been up to scratch, with a horse that didn't necessarily perform, and he's like a 5-2, 9-4 poke for a race. Yet Salvatore Mundi's 4-1, and everyone's sort of slating him, saying he's the worst price festival favourite. I don't get that. So yeah, the New Line, I'll stick him there as a place. Like, I'd like to see him go win. I'd like any good horse to go and do well. But yeah, we'll leave him as he is for there. Ballyburn, I mean, he was going to be going in the Arkle, wouldn't he? He would have definitely been going for the Turners. And they were talking about Cheltenham over the summer. Now, you remember last year, Gaelic Warrior was favourite for a Stairs Hurdle, ended up winning an Arkle. So you get good horses that can be versatile. They can go different trips. And obviously, you make your plans as the season goes on. You learn from your experiences. Now, the chasing run behind Sergino was good. I was a little bit, I'd say, disappointed in the fact that Sergino dotted up on him, and he was getting the £6 Sergino, but it was Sergino's chasing debut. So for all that he could be an absolute monster, which we think Sergino is, hence why I'm saying I think he wins the Arkle, I'm not sure that this is ideal for Ballyburn. Like Galloping de Champs went for returners, you can't really imagine him going and winning an RSA that year. I know he's a Gold Cup winner to say, but I just think at the time that they're progressing, Ballyburn doesn't want to be going at 3 miles. I think he'll get the trip, but they started him off at the sort of 2 mile 3, didn't they? Then they run at 2 miles. It's a 2 mile 5.5 race. They can run him in the Race Festival, which he's probably going to win. He's about 6 to 4 for that race. That would probably be the time to bet him. I don't think 4 to 1 about him, 7 to 2 for him for an RSA at this moment is a great price, if I'm honest. I'd rather back him for the Dublin Race Festival, potentially play the money up by Turner's, Novice's Hurdle, or a Ballymore, Neptune, Novice Hurdle, whatever you want to call it. Ever remember one of them winning a Brown Advisory the year after? I don't know how many have tried. I can figure that stuff out as we get towards the Cheltenham Festival, but I'm sort of against Ballyburn. Now, look, the start of the season, I would have preferred him to be an RSA horse, but I would have preferred him to be campaigned as one. I don't like this 2 mile run over Christmas and then go up to 3 miles. And yes, he was very good last season, and yes, he might have might be better, potentially worst favourite of the festival, purely for the fact that if the Turners was there, he wouldn't be going for a Brown Advisory. And I know people will say, well, he might still have the ability, but it's sort of a year too soon sometimes for horses, isn't it? So I don't know what they'll do with him. That 2 mile 5.5, we're not going to really learn anything in that race unless he absolutely slams them by a good distance. If he does that, then I'm going to look like an idiot for saying he's the worst favourite for the festival. But I sit a little bit and say that I think he's on this sort of cusp. So look, I'm going to put him up with the New Lion for now, in the fact that I'll say that he could probably place and they might get away with it. I'm on the fence. He could win a Brown Advisory. We need to see the manner in how he runs in the Dublin Racing Festival, but he could easily just not want the trip now, and it's been a bit too much of a different distance type stuff for him to get it done. And I don't know, he could prove himself at Punchestown or something after. So yeah, I'm on the cusp of him, but at the moment, I'd rather see him run a Dublin Racing Festival, bet him there because I think he'll win that race. That's his trip, and then reevaluate after. So as it stands at the moment, I think I've got to put him somewhere down. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. I think he's short. I never backed him at 5 to 1. I know he's short enough to get him beat over 2 miles. I've not bet him again. Look, the worst favourite title's got to stay. But for now, for the ones that we've done, I'm going to put Ballyburn down there. That could obviously subject to change, right? John Bomb going for a champion chase. Now, look, you could comfortably make an argument, and I think most people would agree on the whole that he could fit into any one of these three, right? No way is he the worst favourite of the festival because he deserves it. He's climbing up the ranks. He's doing his bits. We don't know how Gary Gaelic Warrior is going to turn up on the day, but obviously he would be a threat if he does it. And Nergamine's old enough to smoke now. He's an 11-year-old, and for all that he's a dual champion chaser, I don't see an Nergamine doing it. I don't think his Hilliway chase was good enough. Look, we'll learn a lot on Saturday in the Clarence House. I think John Bond's going to dot up in there anyway. I think it's his best chance ever to come and win a champion chase. So I'm sticking John Bond in the wins category. I think it's his time to go and do it. And I'd love to see it as well, for all I talked about him being siblings and people can get carried away. We're years past that now. Obviously, Duvan, full brother, was 1 to 4, broke his hip in the race or fractured his hip and still managed to finish 3rd or 4th in a champion chase. With that sort of injury, you don't expect 2 from the same pedigree to be this elite level of it. But you might just argue that John Bond doesn't need to run as high a level of what some of the horses in the past have done, like close to 180s performances to win this. He could win it doing what he's doing at the moment. And I like him. Bit unfortunate a couple of times at Cheltenham, but I think he's learned each time he's got there. And yes, it is a question mark around there. It's the same as Galloping de Champs never winning at Punchestown. It could be a problem that's in there, but I don't know, maybe wishful thinking. I think that John Bond does win it this year. I think this is his time to go and do it. Now we're moving on to the bumper. Now, Calypso Chance. It's a horse. I don't with some of these, but I don't really feel like Gigginstown bumper horses are very good. And this is one that I don't want to put the way down as the worst favourite of the festival because, you know, he might not go our favourite and he's a big enough price. So we'll just stick him down in the lose category because leave the bumper for a little bit. Willie Mullins might unleash saying after, but yeah, not for me. Maureen for the Mares Novices Hurdle. Now, she is a horse that was favourite for a bumper, for champion bumper, and obviously didn't get to go there. They've talked about her recently at the Cheltenham Racing Club, saying that she's near in work, and it's Willie Mullins getting her mares ready for the Mares Novice, right? But I just think if you remember back to last year, Golden Ace got the job done, and you get a bit blindsided with the class. The other ones, like I say, Brighter Days Ahead probably should have been the one that was winning that race in hindsight now, but she didn't get the job done, did she? Doesn't look a strong division, but it hasn't looked that sort of level since you've had the Limonese, Let's Dances, and Lorena's winning in the past. But, you know, related to 14, named after Willie's mum, like there's no, I'll say no way, but you'd be staggered if this horse isn't bang, bang, bang there. To hold the price at the head of the market throughout the entirety of the season without even having been seen is Willie doing Willie things, isn't it? And I don't want to get caught up in the fact that we haven't had some of the best horses winning these races in the past. Even Honeysuckle was due to run and got pulled out. But I would say that I think she probably goes there and wins. But we just don't know. We haven't seen her, have we? So she's a tricky one. I definitely wouldn't want to put her down as losers. Definitely wouldn't put her as the worst favourite. Wins or places. I reckon she's got to be in and around and up there. And I'd be optimistic at the fact that now you can get 5 to 1 about, you can get 4 to 1 non-runner money back, which is a fair shout considering if she doesn't make it to the racecourse for whatever reason, then you're going to get your money back on 4 to 1. If she comes out and dots up in an ordinary maiden or mare's maiden in Ireland, which she's entitled to do, she'll be 6 to 4 for the race, won't she? So yeah, it's not a lot to go by on there. She wouldn't be the strongest of all of these, so I'm happy to leave her further down this side of it. But yeah, we can shuffle those up a little bit later if we need to. Right, Factor Far, we're talking about a Ryanair in here. Does he drop back to a Ryanair? I don't know, because he was keen in that Savills Chase, and I know he won the John Durkan, but the John Durkan was sort of set up for him to be a closer to go and win that because it was stayer types in there. You get the Ryanair run with sort of champion chasey type horses or faster horses that are going there that maybe don't get it. I know Protectorat won it last year, but awfully slow race that was. And it depends who goes in there as well. Banbridge wasn't suited by a slow pace last year. Ile Francais could come in and be an absolute furious gallop. And I think if Ile Francais was in it, Factor Far wouldn't be able to do that for all that he is keen. Look, I don't think he probably even goes to the Ryanair. I think they should send him to a Gold Cup, but I could be wrong. It would be a statement of intent, I think, that if they ran him in a Ryanair, they think he's got a proper chance of winning it, because Ryanair, you'd probably rather run him in a Gold Cup, wouldn't you? Look, I don't want to be like anti the horse, but I think his best trip would be a Gold Cup. So for the purposes I was talking about a Ryanair, I don't think he runs. I think he loses if he does. So Factor Far, you can sit yourself down there. Tiapu, now he is priced at the moment about 6 to 4, maybe 7 to 4 in places. I'm not 100% sure about the height of boosts and things that are available for some of these horses. And I was keen on this horse last year, right? Doing previews, building up to Cheltenham. He was still 9 to 4. And I know people will say it was a better race last year. And it was, ratings, all that sort of stuff in there. He was always the winner last year. Now, ground-wise, it's going to be key to him because I think he'll be fine on like quicker ground, but he won't be able to show his best on quicker ground. I thought he's running the Hatton's Grace, getting beat by Lossiemouth. Yes, he had his pocket picks, but it wasn't anywhere near as good as last year's. There's time figures to do as well with other horses on the card. It was Amsterdam on the card that would not look favourably of him. And he got quite a low RPR in there as well. Look, I'd be wanting to take him on and get him beat if it wasn't a bog of a ground. If it's a bog of a ground, then horses like Langadan that have got a question mark about their stamina, Lucky Place, even Crambo to an extent, Home by the Lee wouldn't like it when it's bad like that. I think he wins, right? And I'd be confident of that. If it comes up good or good to soft, which is what we'd always like to think a Cheltenham Festival is going to be targeted to be, a good to soft, so equivalent of a yielding, I think he could be opposable. And the fact that we knew tactically last year that they had to ride him in a certain way to get the win, which I talked about again, that they'd have to kick for home a little bit earlier on him. I wonder if there's an opportunity that they could get him beat. It's similar to what happened with the Paisley Park. Once you learn how to ride against those types of horses, it can change. And these behind the bridle horses can be a little bit like it. Look, it very much depends on all the ground. If it comes up as a heavy ground festival, then he's bomb-proof. If it comes up soft, he wins probably more times than he doesn't, even though he is odds against at the moment. if it does come up quicker than soft, I think he could be vulnerable. So look, he's definitely on the cusp of either winning or placing in there. Look, we'll find out so much more in this Cleve hurdle that's going to come up. We'll stick him in there, right? And I don't want to be like I've gone off him type stuff, but if I try and factor in the fact of the price that he is now at the moment as well, without knowing the ground conditions, as I said, if it's heavy, he could easily go up odds on, couldn't he? But you're betting against the weather, I think, at his price at the moment. And I think if it did come up as a good to yield and all, we saw a real impressive performance in the Cleve hurdle, which promises to be deep this year. Then I reckon his price could get a little bit bigger, but he's got to be there or thereabouts. And like I said, I don't think he's as ground dependent as a lot of people might make out, but his comeback run wasn't very good. There's no two ways to spin that. And we can be forgiven all that sort of stuff, but I talked about him last year beating Imperial Pass. Like everyone was talking about Imperial Pass and monster, and then all of a sudden people said that he must be bad because Tiapu beat him. And now all of a sudden Tiapu's done what he's supposed to do, wins at Punchestown after winning at Cheltenham, and now all of a sudden he's an absolute worldie. But what he's done since then is lesser form than before, if you see what I mean. So look, it's a roundabout way. I'm not against the horse. I like him. I obviously liked him a lot last season, but I just think he's short enough. So we'll leave him there. Lulamba, the Triumph Hurdle horse that hasn't been seen yet, was due to run at Kempton and picked up by the Donnellys. Was told by a couple of people that the Donnellys have bought a Triumph Hurdle winner. Look, it's been absolutely in the betting for Cheltenham. Hard, because that sort of confidence does put it up there. Now, Dublin Racing Festival, when we get the Spring Juveniles, always been a race I think does point towards like the nice horses. I haven't got anything to say that like this Lulamba deserves to be the price that it is. And we've seen lots of times that there'll be a horse that comes in as a bit of a flyer for the race and shortens up ridiculously, but there has been a lot of money about for this horse. Traders and things have talked about it from lots of different betting firms, so it's hard to say whether it deserves. It's one of those. There's either wins and wins comfortably and it's the best thing since sliced bread, or it's the worst favourite of the festival. Based on the fact that we haven't seen it, and it's hard to make that judgment. Like there's not enough to warrant the price, and there's not enough to warrant really taking the horse on. It's very much in the unknown category. I don't know where to make me uncomfortable doing a tier list for that, really, because you either sit down, like I say, is the win or the worst favourite of the festival. Look, I don't mind a good vibe about a horse that comes in, but I would prefer if it's a British horse that maybe we've seen it by now. Look, could be an absolute aeroplane, but at the same time, I'm not 100% sure. Right. I feel like what we'll do is we're going to be brutal and we're going to put Lulamba in as that, and then we're going to stick Ballyburn, stick him up in the places. Big sort of shift in there, isn't it? And we're going to have more favourites win than lose when it comes to the Cheltenham Festival. At the moment, I've got 6 versus 6. So of these last 3 favourites, really, I'm going to be wrong about plenty of those ones that I've said won't be winning the race, because I could have got away with just shoving them all in to win, to be fair. Dino Blue for the Mayor's Chase. I think a win's gone, definitely. She has had that tongue tie at Christmas. I'm sure they would have given her a win up, even though they had to declare him over in Ireland, and she finished with nothing about her. She can go right straight in there. She can go in as the worst favourite of the festival. Now I don't know where to put the Lamba, because the worst is the worst, isn't it? Let's leave the Lamba down there. We can have 2 that I think are probably potentially bad favourites. But yeah, Dino Blue, God love her. She ran really well last year. I was really impressed with her on the ground, and I think coming up on better ground now, she should be fine. But I think her win's gone, and I really liked her in that race at Christmas. I thought she could win that Paddy Power Wall Club Chase, and she didn't. So it's hard to forgive her now that it's 2 runs where she was well backed in that headway, and then she was back to Christmas to do that, and she did travel like nicely for a long way, but I think her win's gone. So no, they've got time to get that fixed, haven't they? But we'll leave her down there. The Yellow Clay's in here as favourite for an Albert Bartlett. Now, Gordon Elliott's touched on the fact that he thinks he's probably going to go for returners. I think him and Potter's Charm would both be suited to an Albert Bartlett, but they both look like they're turnersy bound. So look, if the Yellow Clay did run an Albert Bartlett, I'd give him a good chance. I think he's a good horse. I don't know whether he's really boaty enough to do it, but then he might just have the class to go and do it. But like I talked about a Ballyburn winning a Ballymore, would he have really won the Albert Bartlett the year before? I'm just not so sure. So like, if he runs in the Albert Bartlett, we'll stick the Yellow Clay's places, but I think he's going to go elsewhere. So we'll leave that as it is. And then Galopin Deschamps, right, he's just going to go straight in. We can keep this one quite short. He's going to be terribly short, right? He's even money. He was 6-4-ish for his first ever Gold Cup when he's like rising star, that sort of stuff. Things didn't go his way in the race that year, and he still crapped all over Brave Man's Game. Now, last year, things went perfectly for him throughout. I talked about this when I put up Jerry Colombe at the start of the season. I'm obviously not happy that Jerry Colombe bombed at the start of the season. We haven't seen him since. But we could see him at Windsor this weekend, but I trust Gordon to get him ready. You need a lot of luck to win a Gold Cup. We see a lot of horses that run in a Gold Cup, they go off and then they come back and then they go and never win a race again, a Gold Cup horse. But Gallo Vinishon does look the best. Look, he deserves to be favourite. I think the most likely outcome is that he does win. And I think when you're looking at challenges in behind, look, if Factor Files settles and he's not as keen as he has been in the past, then he could go and prove a bit of a challenge. But it might not be this year for him. It might be a year too soon. Despite the fact that he's an 8-year-old, I think Jerry Colombe, if he got some luck in running compared to last year, could have finished a lot closer. But obviously, he's not coming in the same sort of form. So the price that Galopin de Champs is, he is plenty short enough now. But I do think he wins, and I don't think there's a whole host of horses that are solid candidates in behind to say that they could beat him. So I think we can leave that as it is there. Like I say, the reality is, of all these favourites that we've put in here, there will be more favourites that win than lose, and I've got more favourites losing. Now that, you know, Tiapu would be ground dependent. Like I said, if it's soft or slower, he definitely wins. So we can upgrade Tiapu off the back of that for being harsh. The New Lion, I do think, is a place-worthy horse. Ballyburn, look, we're not going to know until the actual day about him and the stamina. And it could be the Dublin Race Festival. He's so classy. I'm talking he's got to be Monkfish standard, where Monkfish slammed latest exhibition. And then Monkfish jumped like a tailor and he just got it there, albeit he'd won an Albert Park before. Ballyburn just leaves me still with that air of, I could see him being okay, but like, I don't want him there. I don't like, based on the Brown Advisory, like he should be Turner's this. So look, I'm even going to chuck him down to this. Yellow Clay, like I said, if he runs an out ball, I think he places it. He could be a bit higher than that, but we don't know if he's going to go there. Calypso Chance might not even go a favourite. Don't like Gigginstown's in the bumper. Factor File, again, I don't think he'll go Ryanair, so that's potentially why we're marking more into there. And then we get down to the worst favourites of the festival. Look, I'm definitely being harsh on Dino Blue because she looked good at the back end of last season, but doesn't seem the same horse. But if anyone can get her back, it's Willie, and they've got time now to freshen her up and do stuff with her. So look, that's where that is. And then Lulamba, I could be completely and utterly wrong with this horse, but based on the fact that we don't know anything about it, look, sure, I've got Maureen up there for a Mare's Novice Hurdle. I'm not saying I don't trust Nicky Henderson to get a Triumph Hurdle horse ready, but it wouldn't be typical Nicky Henderson to be leaving it sort of this late. Like, I know there's the Dove, the Adonis and stuff, where the horses have been held onto a little bit longer, but I again, this is off the top of my head stuff. I can't really remember a Nicky Henderson horse that would have debuted Kempton this time of year, but I'm sure there's bundles of them that have done it because they probably went here, then they went to the Adonis, and then they've gone and won a Triumph Hurdle after. So, look, I just think more of the British horses like your Defi de Souls that were running through the season. I mean, Sergino would have won it, but like Gino was running against Burdett Road earlier in the season when I just think that yeah, the Lamba could sit anyway, couldn't it? Probably being a bit harsh saying it's the worst favourite of the festival. So we'll take that out because one horse can have that credential. I'll stick it as places because Lulamba, the way the money's been in there, they've got to be quite confident about it. That sits a bit better with me. So I'm going to wrap it up there. Let me know in the comments your thoughts on ones that I've got right, wrong, or in between. This is obviously a very opinionated type of thing because it's all down to personal views and opinions. And as I say, we don't know definitely what conditions are going to be. We don't know definitely what races people are going to be going for or how it's all really going to pan out. But that is the beauty of horse racing and the reason why it's such a fantastic spectator sport and a great sport for content like this, because it is all about opinions. It'd be boring if we would have the same one. The prices wouldn't exist. And I think we're sat with real exciting conversations to be having 60 days out from the Cheltenham Festival. So look, make sure you like the video. If you do like the video, make sure you comment, as I say, and make sure you subscribe to the channel because we'll have loads of stuff coming out now in the countdown to Cheltenham. Be lucky, and we'll see you again very soon.